For the record, my name is Tania Fernandez-Anderson, the District 7 City Councilor. I am the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Ways and Means. This hearing is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. The Council's budget review process will encompass a series of public hearings that began in April and will run through June. We strongly encourage residents to take a moment to engage in this process by giving testimony for the record. You can do this in several ways. Attend one of our hearings and give public testimony. We will take public testimony at the end of each departmental hearing. In this case, probably in between the rounds of questions from our council colleagues, and also at the hearing dedicated to public testimony. The full hearing schedule is on our website, boston.gov/council-budget. You can give testimony virtually via Zoom. For virtual testimony, you can sign up using our online form on our council budget review website or by emailing the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov. When you are called to testify, please state your name and affiliation or residence and limit your comments to a few minutes. To ensure that all comments and concerns can be heard, email your written testimony to the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov. Submit a 2-minute video of your testimony through the form on our website. For more information on the City Council budget process and how to testify, please visit the City Council's budget website at boston.gov/council-budget. Today's hearing is on dockets 0760 to 0762, orders for the FY24 operating budget, including annual appropriations for departmental operations for the school department and for other post-employment benefits, OPEB. Docket 0763, 0765 to 0766, orders for the capital fund transfer appropriations, docket 0764 to 0767 to 0768, orders for the capital budget, including loan orders and lease purchase agreements, docket 0775, message and order authorizing a limit for the Boston Centers of Youth and Families, BCYF revolving fund for fiscal year 2024 to pay salaries and benefits of employees and to purchase supplies and equipment necessary to operate the City Hall childcare. This revolving fund shall be credited with any and all receipts from tuition paid by parents or guardians for children enrolled at the center. Receipts and resulting expenditures from this fund shall not exceed $900,000. Our focus area for this hearing, it will be to overview of the FY24 budget of youth employment and opportunity, youth engagement and advancement, Boston Centers for Youth and Families, and revolving fund and Boston Public Schools. And hopefully a conversation about how all of these departments are working to support our youth in Boston. Spanish interpretation is available for today's hearing. Please email shane.pack@boston.gov for the Zoom link if this accommodation is needed. Por lo que necesitan interpretación en español, por favor, manda un correo o email a Shane, shane.pac@boston.gov for the Zoom link. Once you have entered the Zoom meeting, click the on interpretation button at the bottom of the screen. Cuando se entran para interpretación en español, oprime el help me out, Mejia. Council Mejia, help me out with interpretation. Council Mejia, I know you're here somewhere. Oprime yo voy a decir el botón abajo en la pantalla para interpretación en español. Gracias, Casa Mejia.
Excellent, Counselor. That was perfect.
Gracias, Marta. Our panelists for today's hearing are Rashad Cope, Deputy Chief of Worker Empowerment, Pedro Cruz, Executive Director of Youth Engagement and Advancement, Martha Rivera, Commissioner of BCYF, Ted Ted, are you here? Yes. Lombardi, Secondary Superintendent of College Career and Life Readiness, BPS. At this point, may I have the names? Can you introduce yourself of folks that I didn't mention on the panel? Ms. Adiola, I recognize you are on the panel. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adiola Bekuzian. I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Youth Employment and Opportunity.
Adela?
Adiola.
Adiola. Thank you so much. Beautiful name. Edward,
Thank you.
Thank you. Edward McGuire?
How you doing, Counselor? My name is Edward McGuire. I'm the Director of Operations here at Boston Centers and Youth and Family, here to support. Hey,
Ed, I recognize you. How you been?
Not bad. Have a new baby, so I'm hanging in there. And
Congratulations.
That's good. Thank you. It's good to see you, too.
Fantastic news. Good to see you. And Mr. McDaniels, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Counselor. I'm Naaman McDaniels. I am the Senior Manager of Employment, Payroll, and Development here at Youth Employment and Opportunity.
Fantastic. I really appreciate that introduction. We are also joined by Spanish interpreter. Sorry, I don't have your name, as well as my counselor colleagues. And in the order of arrival, I have Councilor Braden, Council President Flynn, Councilor Mejia, Councilor Lujan, Councilor Coletta, and Councilor Worrell. Thank you in advance to the administration, to the council admin staff, and of course, Ethan and Karishma, our budget analyst, for all of the work and helping us to get through these hearings. For our format, we'll go first to my council colleagues for a brief 30-second introduction, and then to the administration for your presentation. I ask that you each take 5 minutes, since there's so many of you, if not 10 each, half-hour maximum for your presentation. And I ask that you all go at once so that we can have a full cohesive understanding of how these departments are working together. And then we'll go into a round one of questioning. Each counselor will have 8 minutes. Again, considering time, I may extend to 10 or more. And then to public testimony if there's anybody available or signed up. And I see that we have at least 4 people already signed up. And then on to round 2. And then we'll wrap up with closing statements if time permits. So in the order of arrival, Councilor Braden, you have 30 seconds for introduction.
You're on mute, Counselor.
All right, switch off my mute. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I will save my comments. We are short on time, so we have a lot to hear. I just look forward to hearing the conversation this afternoon, and thank you all for being here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. Council President Flynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the administration team that's here. Thank you to you, Madam Chair, and to City Council Central staff. No further comment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council President Flynn. Sorry, who was next? Sorry, I just got word that we have a whole bunch of students. I don't know if it's a bunch, but some students who are testifying, and they're asking me if where they should go. So I just wanted to answer to that. I apologize for the multitasking. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor for your opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To be here. I'm just interested in learning what we can be doing on the council to support these amazing programs. As you know, I started my career off in youth development. I believe it's one of the biggest investments that we can make in the city, and I look forward to learning what we should be fighting for. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lujan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank all the members of administration for being here who care so deeply and passionately about our young people, especially make sure they have jobs where they can learn and earn. So excited to hear from just everyone on this call. Thank you for all the work for our young people. I think there's work on expansion that a lot of advocates have been talking about in terms of year-round jobs and increasing the amount of time that our young people can be learning and earning. So interested to dive into the conversation. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Coletta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll hold my opening remarks. Just look forward to diving into how busy kids are going to be safe kids this summer, especially in my district and, of course, citywide. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilor Worrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just interested in this conversation to making sure that we are investing and engaging our young people here in the city of Boston. So just looking forward to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To the administration, is there a preference on who wants to present first?
Yep, Council, I'll start off with the Office of Youth Employment Opportunity. Can we give Adiola screen sharing if she does not already have that abilities?
Thank you. You have the floor.
Great. Adiola, can you actually scroll back up to the cabinet slides? Great, we can get started here. That's fine. So good afternoon, Madam Chair and fellow council members. Definitely appreciate you guys for having our team join today to really share about the City of Boston's Youth Employment Program. Just for the purpose of this presentation, I will be the only one presenting, though I'm joined by Deputy Chief Jody Sugarman-Brosen, who will be available to assist with any cabinet-specific questions, as well as Naaman McDaniels, who is the Senior Manager of Employment and Payroll for YEO, and Adiola Abekozine, who is the Deputy Director for YEO. Are we all set here, Adiola, with the slides? We can just bring this slide up, that's fine. We can start there. Yep, that's fine. So as some folks heard yesterday from Chief Nguyen during the OWD component of the morning hearing, the Office of Youth Employment and Opportunity, which is the new name for YEE, has shifted under the newly formed Worker Empowerment Cabinet, which is aimed at advancing the well-being of Boston workers in the public and private sectors. One of the mayor's priorities for the Worker Empowerment Cabinet is to align and streamline workforce efforts that live across different departments under a single unified cabinet. So as you heard yesterday, we are doing that with the Boston Residents Jobs Policy, which Jody is actually leading, as well as with youth jobs. One of the critical goals as it relates to YEO is expanding economic opportunities for workers through quality job skill trainings and career pipelines. So this is largely the work OWD has been leading for many years, and we absolutely believe that when we're talking about workforce development, we must also include our youth jobs program. So I want to thank all those who were involved in shifting the youth jobs work to better align with the city priorities. This does allow for smarter and more intentional discussions and investments around our workforce growth. Yep, thanks. So I want to emphasize important points around the impact on the investment of youth jobs in Boston. Our research and evaluation work with Alicia Monastino and Northeastern University has taught us that Boston's Summer Youth Employment Program improves behavioral, academic, and employment outcomes for youth with greater impacts for Black and Brown youth. This data has been informed by annual pre and post surveys that is conducted across the entire youth jobs ecosystem. Some of those outcomes is it reduces crimes by fostering community engagement and soft skills, raising academic achievement through aspirations and work habits, and boost employment through job readiness. We can absolutely share more of Alicia and Northeastern's data upon request. Next slide. Great. For context, we want to share a little bit about this office for the council and for our listeners. The Office of Youth Employment and Opportunity has managed youth jobs and youth employment across the neighborhoods of Boston for nearly 25 to 30 years and employs roughly 6,000 youth annually today. As many folks may be aware, this program has had many name iterations over the years, Red Shirts, Youth Fund, the Hope Line, and currently Success Link. This initiative has touched the lives of countless young people, many who are professionals and public servants today, including myself, where I held my first job through this program back in 1997 in Roxbury at the John A. Shelburne Community Center. So our mission here is we feel that we exist to employ, develop, and engage Boston youth, and we do this by exposing youth to the workforce and bridging opportunities for personal and professional growth. Next slide. So our youth jobs work is really critical here in Boston for the upward mobility and success of our young people. As you can see here, the collective goal and priority around this work for the city is one, is creating economic empowerment for young people really through short-term youth employment, skill development, workforce and career readiness opportunities. And two, ensuring all young people have timely access to these opportunities that help inform early career and educational choices. There are a few ways we want to do this. I'm not going to go through all these bullets, but one is improving youth jobs to ensure every young person is exploring careers through exposure to various occupations and industries, and thinking of developing a citywide badging system for this youth employment program with skills that are earned and learned on the job are recognized by industries and employers. And then also focusing on capacity building and technical assistance to employers to create a more supportive and effective work environment. As you can see down to the right side of this slide, our recommended budget for fiscal year 24 is just over 18 million. Some of the notable areas of this budget, 17.9 million, will be to invest in the youth jobs program to provide job opportunities for youth in every neighborhood across Boston. 500K to support our youth, young adult workforce development initiative. This is some of the ARPA funding to support workforce training and development for underrepresented adults. This funding, as Councilor Mejia indicated yesterday, will be shifting under our Office of Workforce Development efforts to be more intentional in aligning this request with other workforce development initiatives under our team. So we definitely want to thank you, Councilor Mejia, for your strong advocacy around the young adult workforce development funding, and then also roughly about 200K for consultant services to help us think through the design a set of recommendations for a new infrastructure to improve the hiring and payroll process. Next slide. Quickly here, we want to take a moment to highlight some of the voices of our young people and youth jobs participant. Yes, Kevin is here twice. In Supreme Judicial Corps, they provide young people with life-changing experiences and exposure into law enforcement careers. What was exciting to Kevin here was when he talked with Chief Justice Kim Budd. Kevin mentioned that he watched the murder trial that they were following, and he said he was excited to finally hear the verdict of the case since the jury had been deliberating for a week. However, the trial had ended unexpectedly in a mistrial, but it was nice that he had the opportunity, along with others, to talk to the jurors in the case after the trial was declared a mistrial and learn what happened behind the scenes with jury deliberations. And then Kevin also talked about his visit to Nashua Street Jail and really learning about just detainees and how they live, and being able to have a conversation with a few detainees and learning more about incarceration through a human perspective. And then Bianca works over at BCYF Administration and Finance and became less afraid to speak and now finds it easier being comfortable with presenting. And then Amani Rogers worked with our Boston Police Department, Girls Reflecting Our World, doing some bystander training, which was really insightful. So there are youth job voices everywhere across this city, and we want to do a better job of elevating these young people's voices as well. Next slide. Quickly, so this is the some of the highlights and the accomplishments across the Youth Jobs Program for fiscal year 23. So this includes summer 2022 and school year 2022-2023. It was a pretty successful fiscal year for the city. We saw more jobs return to in-person and hybrid opportunities for youth, although there were still a number of virtual offerings as well. To the right side of the slide here, the total job opportunities provided to youth, and this includes summer and school year, was 6,403. And this is truly an outstanding effort. It's the largest number of job opportunities YEO has provided to young people during the summer and school year employment program ever. And then of that, 4,547 were for the summer, and 1,856 were for this current school year that just wrapped up about a few weeks ago. Additionally, we awarded $5.2 million in grant funding to nonprofit organizations to support hiring as well. We funded the Learn and Earn initiative, which are college courses, career coaching, as well as the Dreamers Fellowship, and also provided some opportunities for young adults as well. Down here at the bottom, talks a little bit about the partnership engagement and career readiness. Over 400 young people participated in career readiness programs and initiatives. And then to my left side here, over 2,000 young people participated and were hired and placed across our ecosystem partners. So those were private sector jobs as well as other local nonprofits. An important note here is that Boston has a really strong youth jobs ecosystem, which consists of PIC, ABCD, YOU, MLK Scholars, and many other strong entities who are leaders in the youth job space along the city. And we do continue to work together with these folks to increase coordination and alignment and develop a more holistic and inclusive workforce development system for Boston's young people. Next slide here. Jumping quickly ahead to this upcoming fiscal year, the next two slides just go over our goals and outlook. With the move to the Worker Empowerment Cabinet, one of the immediate action items was to begin to think through ways to remove barriers for youth participating in the short-term employment program. So one of our revised strategies was to expand our grant making, which we piloted back in summer 2021, to all of our nonprofit entities, with a focus on decentralizing the administrative process, encouraging coalition building among employers and youth serving agencies, also focusing on capacity building and program improvements. As you can see here, our goal for this summer is to connect 7,000 City of Boston youth ages 14 to 24 with a summer job opportunity. And we do have a strong desire to return to our pre-COVID youth employment levels. There are three primary funding areas that will help us reach this goal. One is our city-funded Success Link jobs, which you can see here. The mayor will be investing $13 million this summer in grant funding to nonprofits, of which 88% of those funds will go into the pockets of young people. And this will support nonprofits and also our new higher education summer youth employment program consortium across some of our colleges and universities, which is Northeastern, Tufts, RCC, just to name a few. And then we'll have 200 jobs available across our city departments as well. And then in the middle here, is our state-funded YouthWorks Jobs program. This is a subsidized jobs program administered by the Commonwealth Corporation, which is designed to support proven risk youth. And then on the far right here is the private sector jobs, in which It's managed by PIC, and we do expect roughly about 1,000 young people to work across many of our companies within the private sector. The PIC is an extension of Boston's workforce opportunities. So anytime we as a city are talking about youth jobs or workforce programs, PIC is always a part of that we equation. Next slide here. Great, and then last two slides here, in addition to our recalibrated strategy, some of the other efforts going into this year is that we will be furthering our youth jobs research and evaluation work by monitoring and assessing equitable and accessible approaches to youth jobs. We will be implementing recommendations and process improvements that were informed by our WMT Grant Foundation research project that is also with Northeastern University. Some of the areas are application and recruitment process, focusing on the selection, the matching, the placement process, focusing on onboarding and payroll, job quality, youth experience, and alignment and coordination across the ecosystem. We will be looking at ways to explore how to increase youth job opportunities across growth industries, that is life sciences, healthcare, educational services. And we will continue our efforts to improve and provide access to workforce development and training opportunities as well for youth across Boston. And then with our engagement and outreach efforts, we'll continue those strategies to increase awareness of youth jobs across the neighborhoods of Boston. Next slide. And then lastly, I also want to lift up some quotes from our employer partners, Harlem Lacrosse, East Boston Community Council, which is BCYF Parish Street, and MECO. I'm not going to read through these. I'll just leave it here for a quick second. But the stories of impact across our youth employer community is enormous. And this is why we continue to do this work to ensure that our youth serving agencies have the resources to be able to provide life-changing experiences for the young people that are engaging in this program. And this work cannot be possible just truly without our dynamic team across our cabinet and across our youth employment opportunity. So I'll stop here and wait for the question section. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Chief Rivera, are you ready to go next?
Thank you, yes. Am I able to share?
I think you are.
Okay, great. Actually, if I share, I'm not going to be able to. Give me one moment. Sorry, can I have, can we have Pedro go next? I'm going to have Eddie share the screen so I can look at my notes.
Sounds good. Mr. Cruz, you have the floor.
Awesome. First of all, it's great to share space, and thank you for this opportunity to be able to speak on behalf of the Office of Youth Engagement and Advancement. So I would like to start off by saying that we are a new office, and I'm excited to be leading these efforts. And I'll start off by sharing really that our goal is to centralize a lot of the youth work that's happening around the city with this office, and just really create a hub for youth. And when we say youth in this office, we identify that as individuals 14 to 25 because we believe that they continue to grow and they still need support even after 18. So with that, I'll share our 6 initiatives, and it's actually great that we go after Rashad, just because we are a result of that split that he mentioned earlier. The engagement component really gave birth to this office. So the 6 initiatives that we're overseeing right now is the Mayor's Youth Council, the Youth Lead the Change, which is the participatory budget program that youth decide what to do with $1 million. And I'm willing to go deeper into any of these initiatives when we get into the question part of it. But also we also oversee the MBTA Youth Pass program, which is specifically for 19 to 25-year-olds. So most BPS students, not all, receive a bus pass program. This is specifically for those once they graduate high school. We want to make sure that they continue to have access to the cities, to schools, to work, to their communities through transportation. So instead of paying $90 for the monthly pass, they pay $30 through our office. And those 3 initiatives that I just mentioned, the Youth Lead the Change, Mayor's Youth Council, and the MBTA, were already established for the most part when the office was born. They were just kind of now moved over and housed under my leadership. And now the next 3 initiatives we're building up from the ground up, which is the Mayor's Youth Summit. We're looking to bring back the citywide event, the Mayor's Youth Summit. We're also looking to do professional development opportunities for youth-facing individuals. So we say youth-facing individuals because we really want to expand this beyond the youth worker network. Is really anyone that's youth-facing, that's in front of youth, whether it's teachers, whether it's security guards, whether it's clinicians, is anyone that's, again, youth-facing. We want to be able to provide consistent, affordable, if not free, professional development opportunities to continue not just to support the youth in the city, but we want to support the people providing the work for the youth as well. And then we're also looking to launch a citywide youth survey, a needs assessment survey. And the goal behind the survey is to gather raw data around what youth need in the city. And we want to hit as many points as possible, whether it's financial, mental health, healthcare, educational, housing, food accessibility, so on and so forth. We want to gather raw data around what youth need in the city so we could use this data to not only make real decisions in City Hall about what youth need, but also so that this data could be a valuable tool for community partners to make appropriate decisions within their own organizations. And those are the 6 initiatives that we're really focusing on this first year to launch this office. But I would also add that our goal is to end silos. And because I know, coming from my experience, that's one of the biggest problems that we have in youth work, is that we all serve the same families, right? They go to BPS during the day, they go to community center, and they go to youth program, and then we all serve the same families, but we don't talk with each other. So that's another so definitely a mission that we want to take on. So we'll be building a monthly network. And when I say that, it's just really this space for community organizations to convene, and it's going to be a consistent, for example, let's say the last Friday of every month. And the goal, again, is so that youth workers and youth organizations have this space where they can not only share resources, but lean on each other's expertise. Hey, I got this kid and we're dealing with this issue. Has anybody else dealt with that? So really, again, creating that space and that network of people that are doing the work to continue providing, again, not just the support for the youth, but also the people doing the work with the youth. And then we also launched a newsletter, a monthly newsletter that's targeted specifically for youth 14 to 25. All of the resources, everything shared, the language, the messages is all directly shared to youth. We have about 34,000 subscribers right now. Majority of those are active users, which is amazing. And again, we want to be not just a resource for youth to help navigate City Hall, because there's so many resources in City Hall and it's already scary enough for an adult to navigate City Hall. Who do I talk to? Where do I go? So we want to be also that resource connector for families and for youth to help them not only navigate City Hall, but also, again, be that connector within the community. So whether they're looking for resources within City Hall, they're looking to partner, connect with a community organization, we want to be that warm handoff in those scenarios. And I'll stop there. That's really our main focus for this year as we launch again, is really those initiatives, and it's really just building, centralizing youth work in the city, and really building a partnership with anybody and everybody doing youth work to continue being the ones to uplift youth voices when it comes to decision making within City Hall, and giving them the platform to do so. But I'll stop there, and I'm definitely excited to answer any questions that that anyone has regarding any of these initiatives. And just thank you everyone in advance for all the support for the youth work that we're going on in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Chief, I think you have, I'd say 10 minutes to present, if that's okay with you.
I'll be quick, and thank you. It's Commissioner. Chief isn't on the call.
Commissioner Rivera, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll be quick. First of all, thank you, Chairperson Fernandez Anderson and members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to share BCYF's work and proposed FY24 budget. But before I go any further, I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our BCYF staff who have tirelessly worked year after year to make sure our spaces are neighborhood hubs and safe havens for youth, seniors, and all who enter our doors. And our work wouldn't be possible without the support, of course, and partnership of almost 200 nonprofit partners over this past year. We also want to thank our colleagues across other city departments who've made most of our work possible. And last but not least, I want to thank our Chief of Human Services, Jose Masso, and our Mayor, Michelle Wu, for elevating our work, our needs, and our contributions. Eddie, if you could start sharing. You can go on to slide deck 2, please. Back one. Thank you. So BCYF is the City of Boston's largest human service entity, offering hundreds of free and low-cost programs for all ages throughout the city. We operate 34 facilities, including 15 school-based community centers, 19 pools, and a beach. For over 50 years, BCYF has been committed to partnering with residents to provide high-quality, outcome-driven programs that are responsive to neighborhood needs and interests. Our key program areas include sports and fitness, after-school enrichment, summer programming, adult education, teen programs, and senior activities. For fiscal year 24, we're proposing an operating budget of $30,035,066, which represents a decrease of 1.3% from last fiscal year. Our total proposed headcount for FY24 is 391, which also represents a slight decrease, and those are due to the sunsetting of the SOAR program and a couple of other efficiencies. Next slide. So at a glance, we've seen an increase in our weekend visits. We've also seen an increase across the board in aquatics participation, evening visits, and girls program participation. We can see that the previous year, of course, just started to come out of the pandemic. The numbers were still low. So we're happy to report that we continue to see increased engagement and participation across all of our metrics. Okay, you can go on to the next one. Next, thank you. So some of our priority areas that were in 2019, BCYF set out to do a strategic plan. That strategic plan, there were 5 priority areas that emerged, and we have prioritized, or rather focused on, the following 3 over the past year and going into next year. And they are investing in BCYF capital assets, building and resourcing a system of human capital strategy, and providing high quality, responsive, and excellent services across all centers. And I'll share some of the accomplishments and work we've done in this past fiscal year in those areas. Next slide, please. In our capital, we've worked with public facilities, property management. Last year, if you recall, we received an investment to do a facilities assessment. So we are on track to start that. PFD has been working with BPS on the, you might be familiar with the Green New Deal. So we are queuing up to start our facilities assessment. We've had several neighborhoods that have undergone siting studies Alston, Brighton, Dorchester, Charlestown. Those have just completed their phase 1. Some of you were at the Dorchester announcement where we announced that Grove Hall was selected as the site for a new community center. The Charlestown study and Alston Brighton, those are awaiting final recommendations. And the North End received an investment for that facility, which the site identified was by the Mirabella Pool. We began renovation process for the Clarity Pool. And finally, as we talked, I mentioned the partnerships earlier, our nonprofit partners and other partners. We've had great success with the Boston Celtics, who have renovated a couple of our spaces, including the Curtis Hall Community Center basketball court. That's the bottom picture on the slide there. And they recently renovated a space at the Shelburne Community Center, and they turned it into a STEM space. Next slide, please. With respect to investing in our staff and building a system-wide human capital strategy, in November last year, we hired a director of capacity building and impact. This person is focused on professional development, training across the department, as well as developing the metrics by which we're going to measure success. We started BCYF Academy, which is all staff training. Academy had been practice of BCYF many years ago, but for over, say, about 11 years, there hadn't been a department-wide training. So we started it with a working staff group in 2023, April. We've offered condensed best training on positive youth development with HRIA. And lastly, we piloted a cohort of staff training with 3 program supervisors that were recently hired. So we're really trying to institutionalize and create a regular cadence of training that's formalized and relevant to the work of our staff so that they can continue to provide excellent services. Next slide, please. So on the goal or priority of providing high quality, responsive, excellent services, we have, similar to having created a working group for the Academy, we also created a staff working group to work on the program framework. This work is being led by the new Director of Capacity Building and Impact. We piloted a boys leadership corps at the BCYF Gallivan. You might be familiar with the girls leadership corps that's been around since about 2007. We also piloted a community survey. In order to get input from the community, we are looking to different ways to get that information, and the survey was one of the things that we piloted in Hyde Park, Mildred, Nazaro, and Rosendale this past year. Moving into FY24, we'll continue to build out the community engagement and input strategy to include open houses. We can go on to the next slide. So here I just wanted to highlight again a couple of our partnerships with Comcast, New England Revolution, and of course our colleagues in Age Strong, who without their help we would not have been able to have launched the Mattapan Senior Center. They were instrumental, but the seniors, civic leaders in that community were incredibly vocal and have been leading that the activities at that center, working with our staff for several months now. Next slide, please. Lastly, as I mentioned earlier, we're launching our facilities assessment. We also started working with Chief Garces and DeWitt on an IT assessment similar to the facilities assessment. We'll continue that work through FY24, and we'll continue to work with, Public Property Management Department on facilities efficiencies, including shared tracking software. Next slide, please. Okay. In FY24, we'll launch our academy training, which we expect will be a 2-day, full-day training for staff. We also are FY24 budget reflects the creation of an employee relations position that's going to be centered on staff experience and appreciation. And lastly, we continue to develop our onboarding process for new staff, working with our HR director and capacity building and impact director. Next slide, please. FY24, we expect that we'll be finishing our new program framework with an equity lens that will lead to staff training. This framework will also include identification of youth outcomes and metrics. As I mentioned earlier, this is how we'll gauge our success. We have, over the past couple of years, been improving our use of the new software that tracks our members' registration, which is called Perfect Mind, and we'll continue to build that out so that we're able to better track our metrics. Our investments for FY24 include increasing senior programming dollars, and we're working in partnership with Commissioner Shea and the H-Strong Commission on identifying more programming for our centers using that funding. Next slide. I'll leave it there, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll go straight to our round one of questions. We had some youth in person to testify, but I think while they're getting ready, we'll go to round one and then public testimony and then round two. In the order of arrival, I have Councilor Braden first. You have 8 minutes for your questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for a great presentation. I really like the integration of all the different moving parts and breaking down these silos so that we can be more effective supporting our young people. I'm very, Pedro, I'm going to have to meet with you and hear all about your work. I'm very impressed with how you laid it all out there. And thank you all for your work. Like, this is everyday work in the trenches and doing such great work with our young folks. Commissioner Rivera, of course, I'm going to ask about Jackson Man. And the study's almost complete, you say, and that we're awaiting recommendations. I was wondering, what is the plan in the interim? I know that you've looked at alternative locations. Have you landed on a site, and what's the timeline?
So we haven't landed on a temporary site, but as you might recall, we have two siting studies, essentially. We have the permanent siting study and then the temporary site. So both of those are happening concurrently, and we are anticipating recommendations and a final report on both within the next few weeks. We are potentially, depending on where we land for the temporary site, starting to make moves this summer.
Okay, so maybe by the fall that you might be in your temporary site and then pick it up for the next school year?
Correct. We're working with BPS and PFD on, again, a temporary location. And of course, if it's an existing building, then we expect that we can make the move this summer and be operational by the fall. If it's something that requires more build out, and then it'll be a little longer. But we will certainly keep you posted.
Very good. I appreciate all that work. And there was a question for Rashad. We had a hearing early on. I think Councillor Murphy sponsored it, the hearing on summer jobs and just looking ahead and getting all our ducks lined up. And one thing that came up in the conversation was the onboarding process and the payroll. Sometimes that can be difficult. Sometimes it's difficult for young people to get all their papers together and then also the medical clearance. Did we get those smoothed out? Those challenges are they all good?
Yep, Councillor, I would say that we are continuing to work through the onboarding process for young people. I talked a little bit about just this expanded grant making, in which we have shifted over funding to our nonprofit nonprofit partners who will largely be responsible for hiring and onboarding young people themselves. So we're going to learn a lot from, a grant making process around how young people were able to navigate through those processes. And then, we continue to make ourselves available to ensure young people know that there is support here in the office in terms of walking them through the onboarding process. We have our engagement team, that is truly instrumental in making sure that we're creating videos and promotional materials to make that process a little bit more streamlined. So the young people are going through hiring now. We expect young people to continue to onboard throughout the month of June, well into maybe the first week of July. So, we'll have an idea of how we're doing definitely over the next 4 weeks.
And one issue that we talked about in the earlier hearing was, just medical clearance, and everyone has challenges. I've had challenges getting an appointment with my primary care. But one suggestion was that the school nurses could sign off on stuff. I don't know, how is that going?
Yeah, I believe you are referring to the state's work permit process, and that is just for 14 and 15-year-olds. And the expectation is that we engage in conversation with BPS this summer to definitely figure out if having a school nurse sign off on that piece of it is acceptable for the state. So I think there's some additional conversations in which we need to bring in the state around the work permit process that we need to have, as we're looking to make some recommended changes there.
And is that just for 14 to 16-year-olds, for the younger cohort?
So the work permit is for 14 to 17-year-olds, but the physician signature piece of it that you're referring to, it's only required for 14 and 15-year-olds.
Okay, very good. And then I would be offered just to say to Pedro, in terms of the citywide youth survey, if we have a every other week we put out a newsletter in the neighborhood. It goes out to about 1,000 subscribers at this point. If you would like us to help disseminate that information, we're very happy to put it in the newsletter to get the word out, and make sure you get a good response from out this way. I think.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councilor. I really do appreciate that support. We're in the infant stages of the planning for that, but once we get to that stage, I'll definitely hold you to that, and I really appreciate in advance your support.
And then I'm excited. The youth MBTA Youth Pass program, is that how well is that publicized? That's another thing we could probably put out. How do young people get the Youth Pass?
Yeah, so that's actually a collaboration with the MBTA. So it's a statewide program. We just oversee the Boston initiative, or the Boston office of that. We have about an email list, I would say close to between 6,000 to 7,000 subscribers on that. And it's just a matter of them renewing and just continuing using it. So we always lean on the subscriber list that we have, but we're also constantly tabling and promoting it at events and collaborating with other community organizations, events, and partnerships to continue to get the word out. Specifically, again, to the 19 to 25-year-old demographic. So we're always continuing to grow, but we do have great usage of it. It's definitely being used, and we continue to try to grow it as much as we can.
Very good. That's really all I had at the moment, Madam Chair. I think I'm close to my time being up before the bell goes.
Yes, you only have like 40 seconds.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Council Braden. Council President Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the presentations by the administration team were excellent. So thank you to everyone for the important work you're doing. I see Pedro Cruz. I had the opportunity to work with Pedro at Villa Victoria for many years. You were in the youth development program there, Pedro, and You did a very good job. So congratulations on this position. Pedro, one question I have for you. How are you going to work with young people throughout the city, but especially young people living in public housing? How are you going to make sure that services are available to them, services that you provide, you coordinate? How are you going to reach them?
Thank you very much, Council President Ed Flynn. Definitely, it's been a pleasure to work with you, and I'm glad to be on this level and in this new role to continue the partnership, not just with you, but the rest of the city, to serve the demographic on a larger scale. And to answer your question, in terms of, give me 1 second, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, could you re-ask that question again? I had a little quick emergency in the office. Apologize for that.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Just how are you going to reach some of the youth throughout Boston's public housing developments?
Yeah, no problem. So again, really one of the goals of this office is to be that hub, right? So it's really about building these partnerships, and we actually work closely under the Human Services Department. We have a colleague, Dana, who oversees the Youth Homelessness Initiative, and he's actually been a great partner of the office since we started, and he's going to continue to do that. And we're actually continuing to develop our relationship closely. So again, he oversees the Youth Homelessness Initiative within the city, so he's helping with that. But on top of that, our goal again is to build these relationships so that we could have these warm handoffs happening. So my goal really is to not only raise awareness citywide, but also internally to City Hall, to let people know that we're here so that we can continue to be the resource connector. So again, I think it's a matter of really raising awareness and building these partnerships. One of the biggest things that I keep saying is that the work that we do is collaborative work. It can't happen just with me or with Rashad or with Commissioner Rivera. You know, it definitely has to be a collaborative work. So that's really what it is. It's we're building the team out right now. We're bringing the right people to the table and the right people to the conversations. So that's really what our focus is right now. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you, Pedro. And Commissioner Rivera, it's good to see you. Commissioner, can you give me a little bit of an update on the Blackstone? How are the programs going there? Any challenges we have, or what's the status, and what can we expect for the youth for this summer at the Blackstone? It's an exceptional program, and as Pedro knows, the Blackstone has residents from Villa Victoria, it has residents from the cathedral across the street a little bit, from Lenox. So it's a lot of young people from various public housing, Castle Square public housing areas as well. But just wanted to see what your thoughts might be, Commissioner.
Thank you, and great to see you, Council President. So the Blackstone Community Center has, as you know, might have lost some space, but they continue to provide a lot of the same services. The only program or service that that the site no longer has is the adult education, but we continue to operate that out of other sites, including here centrally. So they had it was through central enrollment. But anyway, that's the only program that we don't have at the Blackstone anymore, but they continue to provide school-age programming, Teen Center. The Teen Center is the program that's thriving the most. We mentioned Comcast and as a partner in my presentation, and that's one of the sites that they have adopted as providing programming and resources, including technology. The pool is still down, and we don't see it being up in the coming year, but we'll continue to work with BPS on trying to get it online as soon as possible.
Thank you.
I was going to say if there is any, if there are any community needs or gaps that have been identified, that have been brought to your attention, please don't hesitate to reach out. I also talked about those community surveys. We had done one. Actually, no, Blackstone is not one of the areas where we've done one. So what you can expect for this coming summer is that we are doing them across the entire city after having piloted those surveys over the past year at 4 other sites. so that we're gathering feedback. If there's something that's lacking in the community center that we can offer or provide in partnership with another agency, we're happy to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner. And then maybe just as a follow-up, citywide, what can we expect from BCYF as it relates to supporting young people, students with disabilities during the summer? What are you guys doing in terms of helping young people with disabilities, especially getting exercise, getting involved in sports or any type of physical fitness where they could be outside and getting a little bit of exercise? Just want to see what your thoughts might be.
Yeah, so working with, depending on the disability, it requires expertise, much of which we don't have, which is why we partner with other entities. We have adaptive sports that we operate out of the Tobin Community Center. And in a lot of ways, adaptive sports is providing programming, hockey, soccer, for people who are wheelchair bound, something that you don't see anywhere in the state. We still continue to operate Camp Joy. So we have, again, programming, limited expertise, and we continue to partner with other entities to provide that.
Is that program for students with disabilities at the Tobin, is that throughout the summer?
So adaptive sports operates, I can get you the schedule, and it's not restricted to just youth. It's also adults, and it's intramural sports, all ages. And Camp Joy has the summer program as well as the winter program.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll follow up with you offline. I'd like to get a little bit more information on physical fitness for students with disabilities, something I'd like to see if I could work with you this summer and try to be as helpful as I can.
That'd be great. And again, it depends on, you mentioned physical disability, because we work with, also with an organization that's doing programming out of the Roslindale Community Center, Bryce's Promise, I think it's called, that works with children with autism. They're going to be operating their summer camp out of the Roslindale Community Center. So if we're not able to provide it, because again, it does require a level of expertise and certifications, then we're always happy to partner with someone.
Commissioner, do you do any work with the, it's a group sponsored by Local 25, the Teamsters. It's the Challenge program, and it's I know they have several programs in the South Shore, but I know they have one in Dorchester. But it's a sports program, softball for young people with disabilities. Are you partnering with them at all?
It doesn't sound familiar, but I'm happy to follow up and find out.
Yeah, Sean O'Brien is the president of the Teamsters. Does a lot of work in that field, but they have an excellent program, softball, I think, for young people with disabilities. But and then my final question is, I know we are making progress with partnering with students, BPS students, especially students of color, immigrant students. How are we doing in terms of swimming lessons for BPS kids, BCYF kids?
Yeah, so actually I was, as you were asking your question, I was checking with Eddie, so we are working with the Challenge at the Leahy Holloway on swim lessons, speaking of, so it's a perfect segue. So we continue to struggle, as many are nationally, with lifeguard recruitment. We are, and as I say that, we are, on track to have the minimum number of lifeguards we need to open the pools that we will have operational. In order to run lessons, we need at least, 3 lifeguards. So with a lifeguard shortage, it has been challenging. But I did have on the slide deck that we have a good number of lessons and people that continue to swim in our facilities. and swim programming. In fiscal 2024, our goal is to have, if we can have the number of lifeguards we need to run lessons, we want to be able to get 2,000 kids, taught to swim. And, we're looking at partnering with Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA. So we have an initiative to get to that goal of 2,000.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Council President Flynn.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm always really encouraged to be in this particular space because I'm in space people who I have worked with in a number of different capacities. And it's always encouraging to know that the people who are now behind and leading the work have been on the front lines. So happy to see Pedro, Martha, and Rashad and the rest of the crew here leading. So encouraged. I would have a few questions, and y'all are lucky. Now, not one of those departments that I'm always barking at. So just really quick, I'm curious about now that SuccessLink is into using contracts for jobs in the community-based organization. Right? I'm curious about, and there's not going to be a barrier anymore to restarting jobs, online application in the system between the summer and school year. So that transition. I believe that's one of the reasons why SuccessLink is going to be partnering with nonprofit organizations. I'm clear about that, but that's what I believe to be true. And since SuccessLink will be making school year jobs available from September to June, so that organizations can hire. I'm hearing a lot of echoing and back and forth, so hold on a second. Is that better? Yes.
Yes, Councilman Mejia.
Okay. And sorry, I'm just a little bit nasally, so I am not, if I start sneezing, excuse me. So this is coming directly from some of the advocates that we've been working with, Director Cope. And it states here that now that SuccessLink is transitioning to using contracts for jobs and community-based organizations, there is no longer the barrier of restarting the online application system between the summer and school year. And so the question is, will SuccessLink make school year jobs available from September to June so that organizations can hire young people year-round? So that's question one. Then the other question is, in a recent flyer, YEO offered $18 to $21 for positions for a 30-hour per week for youth employment specialists. And are these positions through the SuccessLink leader program or the emergency employee line item? And is there a range between the pay rates? And then will young people be getting $15 this summer, which is minimum wage, even though the minimum wage will not increase until 2024, recognizing that young people are still impacted by inflation? Will 14 to 18-year-olds get paid more than $15 in 2023? And I'm just curious here in regards to SuccessLink leaders, what will they get paid this summer and during the school year? And programs, this is the last one, programs often have young people and young adults come back multiple years or take on positions with new responsibilities. For example, they may start a summer camp assistant in a classroom and then later be a lead instructor or help direct a summer camp. So do you agree that there are good reasons for organizations to pay a range based on different rates, based on the type of services that they are providing, such as $15 to $18, so that young people, depending on their experience in that job position, so is there some wiggle room around that? So some things to consider. Oh my God. And then Chief, no, I keep calling you Commissioner. I'm so sorry that I keep upgrading you. We all do, Martha. I'm curious about spaces for, especially in our centers, with a lot of our families who have children who are on the spectrum around autism. I'm just curious what, if any, opportunities exist in this budget cycle for us to really start thinking about how do we create more sensory friendly playgrounds and spaces and places that are connected to the center. Just curious about what your thoughts are around that as we continue to have these conversations. And that is all. I'm gonna have to go blow my nose right now, so y'all can keep talking to me.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. So I believe I captured maybe 4 of your questions. So if there's another question that I'm not able to respond to here, please feel free just to mention that question again. So the first question around grant partners in the school year program, I think the goal absolutely is to release one RFP for the youth jobs program in which employment partners, can opt in for the summer and the next school year. And I think that we are working towards that for fiscal year 24 to release one RFP or RFA. This past January, we only released the RFA for the summer, which was the first time in which we shifted the entire nonprofit initiative over to a grant-making process. So the expectation is that those organizations that are interested in school year component for 2023-2024, we will release another RFA for this upcoming school year and hope to start that program a little bit earlier with the goal of working towards a full year RFA for fiscal year 24. So I hope that answers your first question. And then the second question, in terms of the 18 to $21 an hour rates. So those rates were for our interns that work here in our office that support the 3 different areas of our work. One is the youth employment. So they work directly with our partners and young people and getting young people hired. And they manage the payroll for all of those young people across the city agencies. They help monitor all of the payroll registers that we are collecting from our grant partners. They support with our engagement and outreach efforts during the summer, getting out to conduct site visits. And then they also work as a part of our career development team, administering workshops, career readiness workshops to young people that are participating in the youth jobs program. So those rates are for the interns that are working directly here in our office, and we employ roughly about 30 to 35 young people between the ages of 19 to 24 that work directly in the office to really support the day-to-day operations of this office. And then
I do have a follow-up. I just want to be clear, and I guess the question really is around not just the interns that are in your office, but just overall out of the 6,000 young people, that we're going to have jobs for. The question is really what's going to be their pay rate.
Yep. So yeah, the pay rate is at $15 an hour for youth between the ages of 14 to 18, and then $17 an hour for youth between the ages of 19 to 24. So those are the program pay rates that we budgeted for this upcoming summer.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Council, for the question on, you asked about children on the spectrum. So there are a number of families that we work with that have children on the spectrum, but as far as having spaces and again, specific programming, because we don't turn anyone away if we're able to adequately provide the service to the young person and support their needs, then we do that. But as far as creating spaces, I'm curious to hear what that looks like, particularly as we go into assessing our facilities and looking at what the needs are. Because certainly we know that we have work to do, even with respect to being wheelchair accessible in our facilities. And so when you talk about having different, you mentioned spaces that have sensory, I'm not sure exactly how you put it, but I'm hearing as you're talking about the spaces themselves rather than programming. So I'd like to connect with you on what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking more about the physical space and making sure that it's sensory sensitive, just kind of like really being mindful that even when you have children who are on the spectrum, there are a number of different issues that bubble up. Maybe it's you might want to be in a location that is more soundproof. That if there's a lot of echoing, that you could put some guards up to create some a safer environment for folks who might have reaction. I mean, I know that's big picture thinking here, but as we continue to really start meeting the needs of our all of our children, that that we just also need to look at the type of environments and whether or not they're conducive for all of them. So just wanted to just throw that out there as something for us to think about as we continue to move in this space, and looking forward to working with you to figure out what that could look like. And I see the hand is up, and I guess that's my time, so I do appreciate it. And thank you. And thank you for muting me when I was sneezing up a storm here, so I appreciate the muting situation happening. Thank you.
Councilman here, I'm not sure how you got muted, but glad you appreciate it. But was there a question there, and did anyone want to respond?
I think the last thing I'll just respond on the needs of all children is, as we're looking to renovate and build new facilities and engaging consultants, we through the guidance and advice of Age Strong, we have looked to engage a consultant that looks at age-friendly infrastructure and facilities. So we'll keep that in mind, that I'm certain that there is something similar to what you speak. So what you spoke about. Sorry, I'm hearing interruptions.
Commissioner Rivera, Councilman here is having some connection issues, so that's the sound noise that you hear. Thank you for responding. We'll go to the next counselor. Just a request. The youth is here for testimony, and they're asking to go, and they're getting ready to testify, but they're asking to go first because a lot of the counselors sometimes have very busy schedules and have to take off immediately after their questioning. And they would like for the counselors to be here to listen. Counselor Lujan, you are next, but after you go, I think I'm asking the remaining counselors, Coletta, Councilor Borrell, Councilor Roy, Councilor Flaherty, and everyone else to stay here to be able to listen to the testimony. Councilor Lujan, you have the floor. Are you muted, Councilor Lujan?
Can everyone hear me now?
Now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I just want to thank the colleagues. I also want to thank members of the administration. I want to thank the young people who are here to testify. I'm going to try to keep it brief. I'm going to pick off where Director Pope, where you left off. I want to thank you. Shout out to you and the incredible job fair that you had at the Reggie Lewis Center. It was really remarkable to see all those young people, all the community-based organizations out to connect connective tissue for our young people. I know that there are young people who are still looking for jobs. One that just hit me up on Instagram to see if there were positions still available. So we know that our young people are still looking for jobs, and that there are community-based organizations that are looking to partner. Councilor Mejia started with who had a thread, and I want to just continue because you mentioned the wage amount, but then we had a hearing where we talked about how it's often hard. We love these jobs where our young people can learn and earn, but it's often hard when like Target or somewhere else can pay at a higher dollar amount. So want to think there's a lot of energy on the council and advocacy and in the community to increase what we were able to offer our young people. Have you thought about what that would look like? What would be a competitive offer? Would it be from, instead of 15, would it be 17 or 18? And what would that look like? What would that increase look like to the bottom line of your office and for this program?
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. So I would say we absolutely believe that we should consider just a range of pay rates for young people that are participating across the Youth Jobs Program. And I think part of our discussions moving forward will be to look at what is an acceptable pay rate range for the two different age groups, and those are the 14 to 18-year-olds and the 19 to 24-year-olds. We can actually, look at the state's Commonwealth Corporation and YouthWorks as a model for that. Their program does offer pay ranges for 14 to 17-year-olds and then 18 to 24-year-olds. So that is absolutely something that we as an administration feel is fair across the board, and it will really help with just pay equity across the board for our young people. So.
Thank you, Director Cope. If the City Council were, multiple part question, were to continue support, you said, we definitely should consider, if there was an effort to get those increases into the budget now, is your office would I feel like implementation for the summer would probably not be so feasible, but could it be feasible for the school year? What would that look like? Because I don't want us to fight for something that we aren't able to use and implement, but I also do want us to fight for it, right? I want our young people, especially those who are, 16, 17, 18, to be able to get higher minimum payments. So just in terms of timeline, if we advocate for it, what does your office actually have the capacity to do?
Yeah, we have a salary cost analysis breakdown for the upcoming school year. I do think that is the place in which we can just look to see if these adjustments are feasible. You're right, this summer it will be too late for us to do that, but definitely for the school year Youth Jobs Program, we can look at calculating just a range of those different rates for the 14 to 18-year-olds and then the 19 and 24-year-olds. And we can share some of some of those figures with you guys just to get a ballpark figure of what that could look like and what that will cost.
Thank you. And then a related last question to you, Director, is that if we were to fight for and to get approval for a budget increase, let's say upwards of $6 million for YEO, is that something that your office has the capacity to be able to administer within the following fiscal year?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about increase in wage amounts, right, and not increase in actual jobs, then I would say yes. It absolutely is something that this office does have the capacity to actually support. And then I think additionally, just looping in, our Office of Budget Management, our Worker Empowerment Cabinet, so that we can just look at the impact, of increase in pay rates for young people just across the, just Boston's workforce. I think that's another area that, we need to consider as we're making decisions about increase in pay rates.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Director Cope, and all of the energy that you put into this. Commissioner Rivera, just a question on, I think you talked about Clarity Pool in June, how we are now beginning to begin that. Is there a new pool in Eastie opening date? I'm not sure if you talked about that, but is there an opening date there?
Yeah, I'm looking at Eddie. So we're looking at the work should be completed within the next couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So we're looking at somewhere like end of June for work completion, mid to end of June. So our staff should be in there a couple of weeks after that.
Okay. Thank you, and I appreciate BCYF's focus on swimming throughout our neighborhoods. As someone who does not know how to swim and who tried to learn how to swim at a Boys and Girls Club when I was growing up, I appreciate the focus in all of our neighborhoods. So thank you, Marta, Commissioner. And then Pedro, I don't really have a question for you. Want to again welcome you to the city. Excited for the work of YEA. Today in Charlestown at a coffee hour, a parent brought up to me the idea of City of Boston Children's Task Force for those who aren't within the bandwidth. And I know that you have a lot of work on your plate from those who are 14 and onward, but I think it could be a really creative idea. We do get really amazing comments and feedback from our even younger people in the age range of like 8 to 14. It could be a really great way of introducing them to City Hall. And I know that I and other councilors do so one-offs like visits and things like that with our young people, but having a more, not to add more work to your plate, but something, an idea to put out there that a parent in Charlestown shared with me. Shout out to Demetria. It was her idea of having a young kids children's task force. I think would be really, really wonderful. That really brings in really young people from across our city, a way of bridging our city and across all our neighborhoods. So just putting that out there.
No, definitely. Thank you very much. And I would love to set up some time to just further pick your brain about what you heard.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of Mayor's Youth Council. My sister was on it, like really excited for YEA and what you bring in your background and for all of this concerted effort to really make sure that we are meeting the incredible dynamic potential of our young people. So thank you to everyone. Thank you, Chair. Those are my questions.
Right on time. Thank you, Councilor Lujan. So we have a group of youth that's here with us and would like to go ahead and go into public testimony. We were supposed to take them on first, and they were just making sure that they had all of their points together. And so they're in my office. You guys want to say hello? You want to come? You can't see everyone, but they're all here and around. But first, for public testimony, and also they get a chance to see from behind the scenes what our hearings, how we function, and what it looks like all behind the scenes. So first we have Favor. And Favor, please introduce yourself. You have 2 to 3 minutes for public testimony, affiliation, and residence.
Hello, my name is Favor Ejones, and I live in Hyde Park. I demand that Mayor Wu and the city councilors remove $6 million from the $395 million that the police currently have. Use this money and put it in with the youth jobs budget so that we can make sure that youth work from September to June instead of November to April. With this money, we can also ensure that youth coming in for another year and taking part of more responsibilities get paid more. Youth should have the right to work for 10 months without having to experience a long gap from the next time they can work. The gap can be very detrimental to many youth workers because some of them need the job to take care of themselves and their families. Youth jobs also create a safe haven for many kids and develop their life skills. Things like leadership, communication, time and money management skills are all things that youth can learn from their jobs. Youth jobs have helped other people in my community by giving us support, making sure we're focused on school, and provide a space for us to be our true selves. However, I don't understand how 6,000 summer youth jobs were promised, but only 4,500 people were hired. There needs to be a better way for youth to be informed about these opportunities, and an outreach team needs to be hired as well. Success Link needs more people who can sign organizations up and help the youth get jobs. Outreach workers can do things like host job fairs at schools or partner with some of the public libraries to have informational meetings / discussions for youth pertaining jobs and internships. There are many more things an outreach team can do, but the only way this can happen is if we're given the $6 million. In addition to youth jobs, I demand that we move even more money from the police budget and fund the community instead. By investing $40 million in participatory budgeting and adding $2.6 million for community mental health response and increasing the affordable housing budget by $10 million, we would be taking the right steps in order to make a safe and more affordable Boston. I'm sure that the police will do just fine with $336 million instead of $395. They'll just abuse their overtime either way. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a nice evening.
Thank you. Favor? If you guys don't hear, they're snapping. We have Joaquin next. Joaquin, please introduce yourself. You've done this before. You're a pro at this point.
Thank you. Hello, City Council. My name is Joaquin Lambos. I am a student at Boston Latin Academy, live in Roxbury, and I am a member of Youth Justice Empowerment Union. We are demanding that Mayor Wu and the city councilors increase the budget for youth jobs by $6 million to make youth jobs actually year-round, increase pay rates, and fix problems with Success Link by hiring outreach workers and funding a community-led audit. Youth jobs have helped so many people I know by giving them a real opportunity to make money and provide for their family and themselves. The current pay rate for the youth is simply not enough, and these are not livable wages. At this moment, the Youth Employment and Opportunity budget has $16.7 million for emergency employees and contracts during the summer and during the 26 weeks of the school year. The pay rate for 14 to 18-year-olds will change to $15 to $18 an hour, with an average of making $16.5 an hour instead of just $15. It would be a 10% increase. And if the pay rates for 19 to 20-year-olds were upped by 15.6%, these young adults will be making $18.5 an hour on an average. We are demanding the city council and the mayor to give us another 10% of the $16.7 million allotted for youth jobs, which would be around $1.5 million. This $1.5 million would allow organizations to pay their workers these amounts of $16.5 and $18.5 an hour. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joaquin. Next, we have Charming. Yeah, of course.
Hello, my name is Charming Solomon, and I am from Dorchester. I'm representing the Insan Society in YEO. I'm here with community members demanding that Mayor Wu and city councilors increase the youth jobs budget by $6 million. This way we can make youth jobs year-round, let organizations increase their pay rates, and fix the problem with Success Link by hiring outreach workers. Youth jobs has helped the community by providing a safe space for young people to make money, by providing financial ease to young people who have to buy their own basic necessities, and it has provided the opportunity for young people to save money and to think about their futures. Teenagers should be able to earn anywhere from $15 an hour to $17 an hour at a minimum, and young adults who are 19 to 24 years old should be able to earn anywhere from $16 an hour to $21 an hour. This is important because inflation and the cost of living has gone up, and it is important for our people to sustain themselves. In addition to money for youth jobs, I demand that Mayor Wu and city councilors divest money from the police budget that has $395 million allocated to it and invest some of that money into youth jobs, the mental health crisis response, and affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joaquin. Oh, Charming, sorry. Next we have Daniel. Daniel, please introduce yourself, affiliation, and residence.
Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Danny. I'm a freshman at Boston Latin Academy. I'm here today with YJPU. I'm here to advocate for the expansion of school year jobs so it covers the entire year. As it currently stands, the summer portion of Success Link lasts 7 weeks, and the school year portion spans from October 31st. And this year, under special circumstances, May 12th, for a total of 28 weeks. The school year portion as well as the summer portion lasts for a total of 34 out of 54 weeks in the year, leaving an awkward 19-week span that leaves students in an awkward position as finding a job that would only let you work for a few weeks before quitting is hard. A point touched upon earlier in this meeting was the program has been proven to improve things like behavioral issues, and I don't understand how the expansion of the program. And the expansion of the program would cost a little over $4.5 million, and this would cover paying 1,350 for 14 to 18-year-olds, making an average of $16.50 an hour, as well as 115 19 and 24-year-olds, making an average of $13.50 an hour. The program does considerable good, and by extending it, you would be able to spread that Ms. Anderson, may I ask the director what reasons he has as to not expanding the program, as well as increasing the pay for people returning?
Thank you, Daniel. Can you repeat your question again?
May I ask the director what reasons he has as to not expanding the program?
Chief, I think I heard you explain about barriers or challenges with expanding or raise increase. Would you kindly repeat your response for Daniel, please?
Absolutely. In terms of extending the program, I think that's the question that I'm hearing, and extending the school year program from, it starts at the end of October. I think the request here is for the program to start earlier than October, and then the program does end the end of April. And I hear our young people advocating for the program to extend beyond April. And the transition from the summer to the school year program is one of the major reasons why the program starts later in October, in which young people need, from a system standpoint, young people need to be terminated to transition into the new jobs going into the school year. And I believe the grant making process, as I mentioned earlier, will be able to help out with this, in which we will be able to release a year-round RFP, in which organizations can apply for the full year. So they can apply for summer and school year through their submission of one application, as opposed to us releasing two different RFAs throughout the year so that we can identify employment partners.
Thank you so much, Chief. Is that pretty clear?
They're just calling everyone Chief.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, the Chief is explaining about the grant programs. Essentially, if we put out contracts that people grants that organizations like a nonprofit could go and apply for it, then they could hire the youth all year round, as opposed to doing it through the city, whereas, or through the current programs, whereas it stops at in October and it will be extended. It won't, oh, sorry, it stops in April. It starts in October and it stops in April. But allowing third-party companies or independent organizations to apply for those grants, then it would allow them to do it differently. And so that's a solution that can expand those programs.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Why go through third party instead of just like BPS, or instead of Boston itself funding the year-round program?
The Boston would be funding it, except like an organization outside of Boston would apply and get the money, and then they would do the program all year round. The Boston's still funding it.
Oh.
Yeah, so like basically, here's an application. The program would come and apply for the money, take the money, and go do the program all year round with more control and less barriers to not expand it beyond April like it is now.
Oh, okay, cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carlise. Is it Carlise?
Yeah.
Welcome, and introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Hi, my name is Carlise. I'm a member of YJPU and I live in District 7. I think that youth jobs should be way more accessible for teens and young people in Boston. We live in Boston, we live in an underfunded community, and instead of having families that suffer with food insecurity and homelessness, we should have like a community where youth jobs are accessible and funded appropriately. Success Link is difficult to use and it makes it hard for young people to get a job. I think that Success Link needs to hire more outreach workers to help young people get jobs without having to go through like long processes I demand that Mayor Wu and the city councilors increase the youth jobs budget by $6 million to actually make jobs year-round. Let organizations increase pay rates and fix problems with the Success Link by hiring outreach workers and funding a community-led audit.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlise. Next, we have Janaya. Hi.
Hi.
How's your asthma?
It's good.
The pollen is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please introduce yourself for the record and affiliation.
Hi, my name is Janaya Tassina Wally. I am the Youth Justice Power Union. I demand that you take $6 million from the police budget and invest it into youth jobs. This is important to me, and not only me, but for the other teenagers out there. Because most of us youth needs a youth job, and when it's not enough for all of us because of the youth budget. Money in the youth budget, sorry. These youth jobs, believe it or not, helps us, some of us, from ourselves, toxic homes, and off the streets. These youth jobs instead of regular jobs. Not caring about us teens. Yes, a job is a job, but instead of working at McDonald's or Burger King, that's kind of bad for our mental health, and youth jobs are way better for our mental health, and we still get more knowledge, but still care about our mental health. Thank you for listening to me. Hope you guys know that my voice is important.
Thanks for your time and your advocacy. Thanks. And next we have, we'll go to, we should wrap this up. So there's one more person, anyone in person, and then go to anyone who's online. So would you like to give your testimony now? Yep. George Lee. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is George. Sorry. My name is George Lee. Use he, him pronouns. I'm an organizer with Youth Justice and Power Union. Thank you to all the counselors who have been here today for this hearing. Councilor Jen, Braden, and Council President Flynn, I think, was here, and Councilor Fernandez Anderson for helping accommodate rescheduling this hearing from earlier in the month to make it a time when more young people could come and testify. Just echoing what everyone said, and one thing I want to point out is when we were looking at the numbers from the RFIs to look at the budget versus actuals, last June, some counselors expressed worries that if we increase the youth jobs budget, that there wouldn't be capacity to use it. But it looks like that the office figured out how to use all the money. So we still want to make sure we hit the higher goals numbers, but it looked like in terms of spending on contracts, emergency employees, that money got out the door. I think maybe part of it might have also been figuring out some creative solutions around the Learn and Earn program, around ABCD. But just saying that investing in youth jobs is never a waste. The money's going to go to good use. Also appreciate, we've been working since 2020 when we were talking with Director Cope over Zoom during the pandemic about getting September through June jobs, about getting contracts for organizations. So glad that there are more contracts. And Director Cope, at the time you had said that the technical programs for onboarding folks made it hard to switch between the summer and year round. But as you just said, with the grants to organizations can have that capacity to do year-round jobs. So just glad to hear that shift in that direction, and the $6 million would help make sure to actually be able to cover those months. And so hope that can kick in. And then I think if I heard right, Councilor Louis Jen asked if there's capacity to be able to increase the pay rates if the funding were increased. And it sounds like that's easier since we're not actually asking to expand the number of jobs from the goal, but to expand the months this year and to expand the pay rates. It sounds like there's capacity to do that this year. And then just reminding folks that we've been at a number of budget hearings this year, and we're pushing not only for youth jobs, but $2.6 million for community-led mental health crisis response for a program that's been designed by community members. Also $40 million for participatory budgeting, so community members can decide for themselves how to use the budget, as well as $10 million for truly affordable housing, and to cut the police budget instead of increasing it by 10 million. One thing just to compare to how youth jobs money is well spent, at least for the past couple of years, the police budget has had a high personnel, I think it's like 50100, some kind of employee line item that goes over budget. Sorry, the budget is more than they actually need to spend. So in FY22, they spent $7 million less than that line item than what they were budgeted for. This year it looks like they might be 7 or 12 million short again. So they don't actually need the big budget that they have because they're not even spending at all. So give that money to youth jobs, give that money to affordable housing, for their budget, because we'll actually spend the money instead of inflating the police budget and increasing it by $10 million. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to go straight to public testimony for, we only have a couple of people waiting. Ethan, if we can get Nasika. Ethan? Oh, here we go.
Hi, my name is Losika. I won't be having a testimony for today, but I do have questions. So hi, my name is Losika. I live in Hyde Park. I have been with YGPU for the past 5 years. And I just have a few questions about the process for this year around youth jobs. So I'll go slowly so y'all can take notes on the questions. So my first question is, do you have a plan to reach 6,000 youth jobs this summer and 1,500 youth jobs next school year? And if so, what is your plan? My next question is, if I have the chance, could I quickly share my screen? If that's okay? Is it or no?
I think you can share your screen, and how long will this take you, Nasika?
Only like it's just like a 10-second thing for y'all.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. No problem. So my question is for this one. This chart shows how the budget in 2016 used to show the numbers of young people the city planned to hire, and if they actually did that. Now the budget just says what % of youth job actually accept the jobs, and which isn't really that important for us. And so why don't y'all show the budget numbers anymore to show how many people you actually hire and how many people you set out to hire? As you can see, 2023 is just percentages, but 2016 we had an actual breakdown. So I'm just kind of curious about that. I'm coming back on screen. And then my next question from there is, can you guys also show us a spreadsheet of how the budget will actually match the number of young people you are planning to hire? Because we would like to see the math to actually understand where this money is going towards. My next question is, how much outreach are you doing to young people? Where do you go to do outreach? How do you measure how many young people you reach out to? And with more staff, how many more people could you reach? My next question is, how much outreach are you doing to organizations? With more staff, how many new organizations could you actually recruit? Just 2 more questions. Why are there so many young people who don't start on time or so many young people who have problem with their checks? For years, we've asked for numbers on how many young people actually start the summer on time or only work part of the summer, and we have yet to get those numbers, so we would like to have those numbers. I was in these hearings 3 years ago, and I've been trying to get these information for so long, yet we never really get the answer to these questions. I'm giving Success Link a public record request today, meaning that y'all have to reply in 2 weeks with the answers to these questions. Thank you so much, and I hope to hear from y'all in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much, Nasika. I'm not sure who is left for public testimony, but you do have to appreciate the level of advocacy and vigor behind every young person today that testified. Did I get everybody here? We're good? Okay. And really appreciate it. Chief, if you can submit the responses, I'm interested in those questions. Typically, I guess traditionally not a thing. Doesn't have to be followed this way, but up to the chair if we go back and forth in answering, and just so that we can have a productive conversation in the interest of time. I think typically we don't expect administration to respond, but I'm also interested in the responses. If you can send it to me in writing so that I can provide it to the beautiful Ms. Nasika, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. And next we have, for the remaining virtual testimony, we'll come back to you just so that we're fair to the counselors who have to take off. In the order of arrival, Counselor Coletta, yep, Gabriella, wait, no? Okay, we lost Counselor Coletta. Counselor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely.
And good afternoon, everybody. Just a few questions. It's great to see the commissioner, of course. Marta, with respect to BCYF, what programs are seeing the greatest increase in demand, and is there a targeted funding for such programs? And then I'll just ask my three questions, and then in order of who feels best to answer. Is there a demand from places like ABCD for summer job funding grants, similar to what we were doing during the pre-pandemic levels? And then for YEO, have there been any outreach into the life sciences for youth jobs? I mean, everything that's going on these days is STEM related. South Boston Waterfront is just beaming with tremendous opportunity, and we're directing a lot of mitigation to a lot of the local schools. So I want to kind of get a sense as to, what are we doing to connect kids to these STEM opportunities, and what ways do you think is best for young people to gain access to these jobs through the internships, but also making sure that we've got a curriculum and within the Boston Public Schools that speaks to the economy and the fact that we continue to miss the boat. We're spending more money per pupil in the city than any other municipality and or school district, yet we don't have a sort of a curriculum that's focused on the economy. So while we continue to have CEOs moving their companies here, and we've got tremendous opportunity, we've both the best colleges, universities, hospitals, network of community health centers, life science companies are coming here in big numbers, bringing with them high-paying jobs and careers, yet we seem to be sitting on our hands, and we don't have a curriculum that speaks to that tremendous opportunity that if we do, it'll trickle out throughout all the neighborhoods. So I just want to get a sense from YEO, what are you guys doing with respect to reaching out to these life science companies that are now calling Boston their home, and how can we connect kids to these opportunities that exist along the South Boston waterfront and in other neighborhoods as we're seeing labs grow closer to the community? So that's it for me, Madam Chair. Those three questions around BCYF, where the biggest demand is. Are we going to be funding ABCD programs in YEO? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty, for the question. The demands vary by neighborhood, and we take great pride in keeping our fingers on the pulse of the community. And I mentioned in my presentation, one way that we do that is community surveys, and we try to address the demand. So there are some neighborhoods, JP, Curtis Hall, so Rosie, Curtis Hall, they were hearing, increase in sort of that preschool age or toddler age. So we're infusing more of those activities like, playtime with, a parent and a child. Across the network, we have received, there's a greater need for elder programming or senior programming. And that's why we've intentionally partnered in a stronger way with Age Strong around making an investment. So we're setting aside $500,000 to increase senior programming. And those aren't additional dollars. Those are reallocated dollars in our contracted services. So we'll be working with Age Strong on that. And that's on top of the work we already do with them. And another area, if we're talking about youth specific, you mentioned STEAM. A lot of our sites are shifting focus or building out, cyber labs in a lot of tech centers. I'll pass it off to Rashad for the other question.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Councilor, and then I will also have our other deputy chief, Jody Sugarman-Brosen. She can also jump in to answer some of the questions around life sciences and expanding job opportunities and pathways for young people in that space. But to answer the first question about ABCD, ABCD is a part of our recalibrated effort to provide more grant funding to some of our nonprofit agencies. So we are funding ABCD this summer to cover up to about 1,500 jobs for young people. So that is happening. And then Jody can kind of just jump in to answer the life science question.
Thank you, counselors. Thanks, Rashad. I just will say that I'm the Worker Empowerment Cabinet and Office of Workforce Development has really been working on pathways to these life sciences jobs and ensuring we're reaching that goal of getting 1,000 Boston residents into life sciences jobs. And in fact, on Monday, I'll invite you all to a public event that's 11 a.m. with Mayor Wu and leadership from Mass Bio, Vertex, and other members of our workforce initiative, which includes a $4 million investment to expand career pathways into life sciences. We'll be talking about that at the event and hear from some of the awardees of the Worker Empowerment RFP, which recently awarded grants to raise community awareness of the industry and training opportunities. So happy to share more information about that, but this pathways to life sciences jobs is a major priority for the Worker Empowerment Cabinet, especially for those who've been excluded and those who don't necessarily have those PhDs or college degrees.
Thank you very much, Jody and Rashad and Marta. And thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my questions. And thank you for the continued partnership and the great work you guys do in your respective departments.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. I think you were a final on round one. I don't see anyone else here on my list. Ethan, I think we can go to public testimony, the remaining on virtual, and then we can go into round two after that. Councilor Mejia, thank you always for sticking it through with us. All right, first on the list, I have Kelly Gillen Forbes. If you can introduce yourself and give your testimony.
Sure. My name is Kelly Gillen Forbes, and I am a lifelong resident of Charlestown. And I don't really have any questions, but I do have a statement. And I would first like to thank all of the counselors for being here and Commissioner Rivera. So I would like to say that I was very interested to watch the recent budget hearings. And part of it was to gain a better understanding of how the budget works, given what we've been going through over here with the Clarity Pool. I was then left very disappointed and feeling very hurt by how we were characterized at the end of the meeting. Over the course of the last year, the Friends of the Clarity Pool have worked extremely hard, taking time away from our own families and jobs to ensure that this cornerstone of our community receives repairs and upgrades that we have been asking for the last 20 years. We have worked to build bridges and relationships based on trust and respect with the City Council, the administration, Commissioner Rivera, and Chief Masso. To imply that we were somehow just given a new pool because of a perceived leg up based on our color or zip code is disrespectful to not only the members of the community who worked so hard on this issue, but also to the people in the administration who worked with us. The Clarity Pool benefits the most at-risk children in our town, as well as their more affluent neighbors. For more than 70 years, the bunker has been a place for all children and families to come together, regardless of things like color, wealth, family dynamic, or address. There is no racism or classism at play in our desire for a new pool. And the implication that there is such an awful mischaracterization of us and our motives. We also noted that in the amount of money that was being given or perceived to be given to Charlestown, which totaled somewhere around $500 million, I think, around 250 of that, we believe is money coming from outside agencies. So to imply that Charlestown is somehow being given $500 million, we don't believe is true. And the fact of the matter is that we have been begging for money for this pool for 20 years. In 2014, there was money allotted for the pool that would have repaired it, and this wouldn't be a problem.
Thank you, Ms. Gillen-Forbes. I've given you more than 3 minutes. I take your point. I appreciate your testimony. If you could wrap it up in 30 seconds, I'd appreciate it.
I'm wrapped up.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gillen-Forbes. I appreciate your testimony. Next, we have Sarah Horsley. And Ms. Gillen-Forbes, I encourage you to contact any counselor directly that made these statements, or to set up any meeting for further discussion. The fact of the matter is that I cannot just go on without saying anything about that. Black and brown communities have always been put last, and it still remains that way in this budget as well. But again, I personally would love to sit with you and show you the statistics so we can discuss it. It's not about pitting each other against each other. If the city is investing in the communities for equity, it's a good thing. Charlestown should get that investment. The quote that you made about $500 million in capital is inaccurate. I don't know who said that, but that's inaccurate in capital. But the fact that white affluent communities get invested in historically more than Black communities is absolutely accurate. But again, this is not the time for that conversation. Feel free to contact my office. Would love to meet with you so that I can show you the statistics and clarify things for you. Next, we have Sarah Horsley for your testimony. You have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Fernandez-Anderson. My name is Sarah Horsley. I'm a parent at JFK Elementary and also co-founder of BPS Families for COVID Safety, otherwise known as FAMCOSA. First, I want to support the call from the Youth Justice Power Union to reduce some of the funding for the police budget and invest some of that funding in youth jobs, mental health crisis response, and affordable housing. Second, just a quick process point, we were frustrated to find out that the evening hearing tomorrow, June 1st, was canceled. Obviously, evenings are easier for parents and working folks to attend, to testify, so we're hoping that that will be rescheduled for an evening time. Now, in terms of what I wanted to focus on in terms of my testimony is to focus on the importance of ventilation in Boston Public Schools, and that the city has an opportunity to expand the budget allocation to have more schools have modern ventilation systems. Right now, 75% of BPS schools do not have adequate ventilation. And lack of ventilation and clean air causes negative impacts on health and learning. Including increased spread of airborne respiratory viruses, such as COVID and RSV. The lack of ventilation and clean air worsens health equity. Black, Indigenous people, students of color suffer disproportionately from asthma. Also, lack of ventilation can contribute to high levels of CO2, which has a negative impact on learning. So we have some very specific recommendations for fiscal year 2024 for the city and BPS to help urgently to modernize ventilation systems. First is to expand funding for 2 of the mayor's proposed budget items. To raise the 10 million that her proposed budget has for HVAC repairs and upgrades, raise that to at least 25 million to ensure that line item is used proactively for a thorough review and implementation of ways to improve air quality. In addition, we hope that some of the funding in the GND Green New Deal for BPS reserve could be used this next fiscal year to start to put in a new mechanical ventilation system. Also, there's the Renew Boston Trust. We need to increase funding and just awareness of that entity. They're working on improving energy efficiency, but also ventilation at the same time in all municipal buildings, and they've started to work on school buildings. And then third, we recommend adding some money, maybe 750,000 or so, to the operating budget so that we can have immediate improvements in air quality. Because again, 75% of the schools do not have adequate ventilation. So things like education and support campaign for school-based staff so that they know if there's an air conditioner in the window, you still have to have a window open to have adequate ventilation. And also we really urge the City Council to demand oversight to ensure that BPS uses the racial equity planning tool to prioritize schools that are receiving ventilation improvements so that we're advancing equity for BIPOC students, English language learners, and students with disabilities. For example, the City Council could demand that BPS publicly release the tool for each substantial improvement, assess the actual impact after the changes in question are made, and release all the impact reports. Thanks so much for your time.
Hello, can you all hear me? Oh, hold on.
Hi, Madam Chair, I think you're on mute.
Thank you, Shane. Ms. Modestino, yes, we can hear
I
you.
actually cannot hear you, but as long as you can hear me, I will start my testimony. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. My name is Alicia Sasser-Modestino, and I'm the Research Director of the Dukakis Center for Urban and Regional Policy at Northeastern University. With financial support from the William T. Grant Foundation, I've been conducting a multi-year evaluation of the city's summer youth employment program since 2015. And in my role as a program evaluator, I've generated over 20 publications regarding the impact of the city's summer jobs program on youth outcomes. My research has shown that Boston's Summer Jobs Program improves a range of behavioral, academic, and employment outcomes for youth. First, the program fosters soft skills such as managing emotions, resolving conflicts with a peer, and asking adults for help that were linked to a 30% reduction in both violent and property crime. Second, the program raises academic aspirations to attend college and improvements in work habits, such as showing up on time, that were linked to better attendance and grades in the year after participating in the program, which then led to an increase in high school graduation and college enrollment rates. Third, the program boosts job readiness skills, such as creating a resume and practicing interview skills that were linked to an increase in employment and wages during the year following participation. And finally, my research found that despite a price tag of roughly $3,000 per youth participant, the benefits of reduced crime, increased high school graduation, and higher employment exceed program costs by a factor of 3 to 1. Not to mention that nearly half of all youth use some portion of their summer earnings to pay a household bill, providing needed support for low-income families. I'm fortunate to continue working with YEO under a new multi-year evaluation that will focus on improving program efficiency and equity, strengthening program features, and expanding year-round opportunities for youth. We will release a report that details the findings from our efficiency and equity audit from last year, along with a set of recommendations to increase coordination and alignment across the Boston Summer Jobs ecosystem, many of which YEO is already putting in place to meet the mayor's goal of employing an additional 1,000 youth this summer. And just in response to some of the other questions that have come up in terms of the number of youth who have been hired each year, that report will also contain those numbers. And so we are happy to provide that next week when we release the report. And actually, outreach is not the barrier. It's really placement. There are enough applicants and a youth is selected for each job. But due to the city's antiquated hiring system, youth often apply to only one job, and many apply to the same job. So for example, the Dorchester YMCA gets 355 applicants for just 33 positions, while other employer partners do not get as many applicants to fill their slots. So we've implemented a nudge with YEO this summer to get youth to apply to more of the undersubscribed positions. It's also the case that sometimes youth get selected for multiple positions and must decline one to free up that spot for another youth to take it. And so we've also implemented a job matching algorithm with YEO and a real-time dashboard to track this with them this summer. And then finally, we know that youth do not always make it through the onboarding process because the city's hiring system was not designed for young people to upload 10 different documents in the span of several weeks. And so granting out much of the hiring process to partners this summer will also alleviate that barrier as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Montesino. I really look forward to that report. Thank you. Ms. Rodriguez, Simel Rodriguez, can you introduce yourself and give your affiliation? You may start your testimony. Hola. Simel, can you hear me? ¿Me oyes?
Okay. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Mi nombre es Simel Rodríguez y vivo en Roxbury. Mi preocupación y aportación en esta reunión es la falta de ventilación y el aire limpio en las escuelas, que esto ya dicho puede causar un impacto muy negativo en lo que es la salud del aprendizaje. Y esto impacta especialmente a mi hija, que es estudiante en las escuelas de BPS de Boston y es asmática. Es muy importante para mí que por favor aumenten el presupuesto para que más escuelas tengan la ventilación necesaria y adecuada.
Gracias, señora Rodríguez. Si Erika, si quiere que yo traduzco, yo puedo hacerlo. Si no, por favor, puede traducir todo lo que el señora Rodríguez dijo. Okay. Ms. Rodriguez mentioned that her concern is ventilations in Boston Public Schools, that her daughter is a BPS student who is asthmatic, and that is why it's important for us to invest in ventilating our schools more properly because it affects our daughter's health. Señora Rodríguez, muchísimas gracias por tu testimony. And lastly, we have Jada.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Jada, if you can give your introduction, affiliation, or residence, and begin your testimony.
Sure. So my name is Jada Jones, and I'm an MPH student in epidemiology, minoring in infectious disease and population health. And I'm also a member of the Massachusetts Coalition for Health Equity, and I'm here in support of Boston Public Schools Families for Safety. And I'm here today to urge the City Council to invest in implementing quality air filtration systems throughout the district, as clean air can contribute to increased productivity, as well as it can decrease the concentration of viral particles in the air, such as COVID-19, as well as reducing asthmatic symptoms. And my sister is a paraprofessional who was infected with COVID-19 from a student who had came to class positive. And between teachers, students, and staff, COVID-19 outbreaks continues to disrupt workflow and staffing and the students' learning as well. And so this is one reason why multi-layered interventions are a must to prevent students, teachers, and staff from being infected with COVID and other viruses. And so these multi-layered interventions include staying up to date with vaccines, staying home when sick, testing, ventilation and filtration, as well as masking. And the CDC has updated their operational guidance on May 11th, 2023 for K-12 schools and early care education programs to support safe in-person learning. So when I worked for a hospital, these interventions were in place, which kept my family and I safe, including my sister, who's a paraprofessional. And so children, teachers, and staff should not have to worry about being exposed to infectious diseases, including COVID-19, where the World Health Organization has reported that 1 in every 10 infections leads to severe health outcomes, and repeated infections can increase this risk. So I'm just asking for the City Council again to invest in implementing quality air filtration systems, as we must ensure the safety of our children, the future of this country, and implement these measures in order to promote positive health outcomes. So thank you.
Thank you, Jada. I think we have a video recording of a testimony.
Hi, my name is Kathy Armour, and I'm a BPS parent in Dorchester. My daughter has attended the Mather School, the Joseph Lee School, and now she is at Boston Latin Academy. She has suffered and missed many days of school because of allergies, which I have often attributed to her BPS classrooms. I know her schools have had mice and mold, and I have seen how dirty and dusty they are. I have seen windows painted shut. It's clear to me that among the many problems of our old school buildings, the lack of good modern ventilation, basically clean air, is a significant one. We know that poor ventilation concentrates carbon dioxide, and we know that high levels of CO2 affect mental alertness, learning, and performance. Stagnant air also collects dust particles, resulting in poor health outcomes such as my daughter's allergies and her classmates' ongoing asthma. And of course, poorly ventilated spaces hold airborne viruses, including COVID-19, a serious disease that not everyone recovers from, and it's also a disease that can lead to long-term negative and even debilitating health effects, particularly with repeated infections. I worry about illness every day that I send my daughter to school. For these reasons, I urge you to spend some of the Green New Deal money the district has received to begin installing new ventilation systems in BPS schools in the 2023-2024 school year. I'm super excited about the mayor's plan to make our schools green, but that's a huge undertaking. That's why I'm advocating for improving ventilation now while waiting for the bigger renovations. It will require a staff person focused on ventilation, and it will require consideration of the city's racial equity planning tool, but it can be done. It's a cliche, but our children, their health and their education are our future. Improving the ventilation of our schools as soon as possible is crucial to ensuring that it's a good one. Thank you.
All right, that's it for our public testimony. Councilor Mejia, I see that you're still here. I'd like to give you an opportunity for round 2 of questions before I go into mine in the event that you have anything to get to in your schedule. Okay, we'll come back to Councilor Mejia. I don't know if you're muted, but we'll come back to you if you're still here with us. Commissioner Rivera, I think my questions begin with you. I wanted to understand a little bit about what happened with SMART from the start. There was a lot of questions, and my office got a lot of emails in terms of space, in terms of funding. Are you still, or does BCYF still allow their facilities to host SMART from the start, or if not, where what happened there?
So the organization isn't in the Johnson Center any longer. They had, as of the last hearing last year, their lease and their time at the center was extended to allow for a move, which they had agreed that it was time to move on after 12 years in the space. And they vacated the space prior to that, the termination of the 8-month period. So as of December. And we're presently making some renovations and working with the Tenants Task Force and Alex Taylor, who is very excited to have that community center back. So we expect to put it back online as a BCYF community center before the end of the summer.
Thank you, Commissioner. I did hear something different, that they didn't want to leave, and it wasn't an agreement. But again, all left for interpretation. They've found somewhere. They're good to go. I'm happy to hear that they have a new location. In terms of, and I understand that there's a lot of, like you mentioned that you were working on finding a citywide barrier. You mentioned that it was difficult to find lifeguards or to train, or to find people interested to train. Can you please, if you've done already, reiterate exactly the efforts that where you are and where is the gap and what's the need for the goal to get enough lifeguards into our centers?
Sure, so I'll pass it off to Eddie in a minute to talk about like where our gap is for the summer and where we are operationally. Excuse me, but in the past year, we spent a significant amount of that time increasing the salaries of the lifeguard positions to be competitive. So they start at about $22 an hour or a little over that, which is aligns with the state. We've created part-time positions, part-time year-round positions, which have never existed. So now we have seasonal lifeguards that are non-union summer employment jobs, and they are this year exempt from residency. We have full-time year-round positions for lifeguards and part-time year-round positions. Both part-time and full-time year-round positions are union positions, all have great benefits. Again, we spent quite a bit of time not just increasing the salaries, but we've also built in incentives. We have sign-on bonuses, retention bonuses, so they can get up to $1,000 between the sign-on and the retention bonus. To promote the positions, we've done ads, billboards. We're purchasing some ads in the locals in the coming week. We have billboards, and we've used a lot of our city contacts with Clear Channel and the electronic billboards you see, whether in City Hall or around the neighborhoods, street furniture. So we've done quite a bit of outreach in that regard, e-blasts to different networks, to our members, to schools, colleges, swim networks. And we're going to continue to do that to push it out, because we recognize we're not the only ones that are recruiting. So we're going to try to be as appealing as possible. I'm going to pass it over to Eddie to talk about what we have and what we need.
Yep, thank you very much, Commissioner. So good news is that unlike last year and the year before, we're seeing more interest in the position this year. We're actually on track to fill more positions this year than we did last year. And right now we are operating more pools than we have in the past 3 years. So, and then we also have some pools that are going offline for some repairs to the facilities themselves, but we are also adding pools such as the Marabella, Paris Street, and looking for some immediate repairs at places like the Holland to get those operational. It was a little scary for the past few months. I think where we weren't seeing a necessary increase in activity of applicants, but it seems like people are realizing summer's right around the corner and they'd like a good paying job with competitive hours and things like that. And so over the past 2 days, I think we've submitted over 16 applicants to be hired, and we're seeing continued interest in that. And so as the commissioner highlighted, we're going to continue to use the avenues that she's described to try to get as many people back into those positions as possible, as well as trying to maintain an aquatic footprint that the city of Boston hasn't seen in the past 3 years. And it's taken a lot of work. Where, some pools have a little bit more stability than others, but we're working to try to get at least like 3 to 4 guards at each pool so we can start pushing, more than just open swim, but like lessons and things of that kind. And so for the month of June, we, and I can send the list of the pools that are going to be open, but it's the first time, and I was pretty proud of it to say that, where we finally got multiple pools that didn't have a facility issue, but had staffing issues operational, and that they actually became operational in the past 2 days. So takes a little bit of time, but we are, we're moving in the direction we want to be in. And I'm hoping that, this increase, well, we also are facilitating a lot of classes too, free of charge to participants. That the first time around, we're seeing a pretty high dropout rate, but right now we're actually seeing some successful applicants who are coming to join us and in their own neighborhoods as well. And so we're hoping that that type of commitment will continue, and that we'll be able to reach out to more, people that are within the neighborhoods, residents, to kind of participate and take these jobs. But yeah, it took some time with union negotiation and things to get to this point, but it seems like it's starting to pay off. I don't think we'll fill all of the lifeguard jobs, but we will fill enough to keep an aquatic footprint that is more robust than what we've seen in the past 2 years. And I don't know if you want any more specifics, but I can get them to you.
No, I thank you. I think that was good. 16 years ago, I had a horrible near-death experience with my son, and I had a 1-year-old and a 7-year-old at the time. My 7-year-old was drowning, and the lifeguard fell asleep at Madison Park. I used to go often to go get swimming lessons. And I had to leave the 1-year-old, who was a baby, and yell at him to stop. And then I jumped in and saved my 7-year-old. And so and then he was supposed to just stay in one area, and I'm paying attention to the baby, and the other one drifted off. So I think that, when you experience something like that, you really, really, really value the experience, the idea that everyone should learn how to swim. And it's just that it's, especially obviously in communities that have less access or disenfranchised communities, we definitely need everybody to learn to swim. After that, of course, I made sure that both my kids learn how to swim. But it's just really important. It's invaluable, and I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing to try to. And I've seen the banners, and folks have talked about Commissioner folks have talked about kiosks in the community, maybe Nubian Square specifically, because these banners that go in City Hall, they're so beautiful and great. But if they could be in the hood where people can actually access them and see them, that'd be amazing. And a lot of people are advocating for that. So looking forward to working with the administration to see if that's something that's possible as well. As far as homework support, I did some research a few years back and realized that Boston particularly has it's a homework support desert for high schoolers in particularly. And I really wanted to understand what exactly exists within BCYF, or how are you working with schools? And I know that schools offer like the program where teachers would go into the libraries to tutor kids, but and I think that was paused, COVID and everything else. But where are we in terms of programs, and where are we particularly with high schoolers, considering that Black boys are the highest in dropout rates, obviously due to social determinants of health being compromised and being not supported in the community. Just want to understand like what's available and how can we assist you with that?
So across the network, we have, we don't have cookie cutter programming. So I'm getting feedback. So BCYF has, a whole series and array of programming for youth and teens across the community centers. For the 15 to about 18, 19, we are, for the summer, the largest employer of YEE youth. And then we also employ youth throughout the school year through YEE. So I want to thank Director Cope for that partnership. We have everything from the enrichment to the leadership development to sports. There's a greater emphasis and desire for sports, the enrichment, and employment. But often, which is also the case, I'm sure, with schools, the sports and academics go hand in hand. So our centers have standards that if you're going to be part of the sports activities, you have to bring in your grades. So there is a heavy emphasis on that. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but if you want more specifics, with 35 facilities, you can imagine the programming varies site to site. So I'm happy to dig deeper into that with you.
No, we wouldn't have time for that. But I appreciate your answer. I think it's in the answer, right? That basically there's, you employ youth, you have leadership programs, and you have sports programs. And obviously there's an emphasis on that because that's what kids like, that's what they want. And that's great. And then when I made the little face because I was like, oh, ouch. Like if you're not doing well, then how are we preventative, or how are we interventive with programs to support our youth with academic success? And I think obviously, the homeschool connection is extremely important to a child's success. But also, so incorporating our parents into jobs, into these locations, but also being able to monitor their out of school time and being able to pay them for that time in order for them to get those supports is important. So if the kids are not doing well, they're not doing the sports, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. So where are they going, right? And I think, you'll agree to say that if we're preventative, then hopefully that's the prevention of not getting into trouble and stuff like that, or not quitting school. So I think we're saying the same thing, is that it needs to exist. It needs to happen where there should be a high focus on high schoolers getting the academic support and making that appealing so that they can attend, right? And I wanted to just shout out to Chief Cope, because you have been very responsive and collaborative in terms of working with my office to connect to organizations that are willing to do that homework kind of help. We haven't been able to connect you with many, but it takes time, and I look forward to working with you further to do that as well, if I can, especially through these contracts, exciting ideas. And I think my questions will go to you, Chief. If you have specific metrics, you mentioned something about like metrics in terms of like monitoring your progress within and how you're building out or reaching your goals. Could you speak to that, and what specifics, what does that look like in terms of metrics in your department?
Yeah, so for previous years, and it's in my slide deck.
Oh, sorry, I transitioned to Rashad, and then I was like, sorry.
Was it my question about the metrics? Sorry.
Oh, no, it wasn't. I moved on to Rashad, and then no, Commissioner, I was speaking to, but yeah, you can answer that too if you like.
Oh, okay, I'll be quick. So our metrics have been historically, just the numbers, right? It's been number of visits, number of evening visits, number of girls participating, how many programs are we offering. Going into FY24, as we build out a new programming framework, we're looking to really build that out and be more intentional about identifying outcomes, metrics that lead to outcomes that are, positive youth development outcomes, and aligning our metrics to gauge that. And we're, currently in the process of working with our staff to identify what is it that we do well. And it's interesting you should, mention the academic piece, because it might not be what squarely sits with us and we have the expertise to do, but we can do it with partnerships. As you mentioned, you introduced, Rashad to a partner. We're happy to get those connections as well. What BCYF does well is, connecting young people to, adult mentors, those things that contribute to those positive youth outcomes. Creating those spaces where they can learn a new skill. So those are some of the metrics and outcomes that we're working on develop and hope to be presenting this time next year.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep, and Council, in terms of on the youth jobs end, we largely have been, collecting data around the number of jobs that are filled across the summer and the school year. So I'm very similar to Commissioner Rivera. It's really about the numbers, like how many jobs are available, how many young people are we seeing applied to these available jobs, and then how many young people are actually making it through the onboarding process and being connected to these jobs. And then with our work in partnership with Alicia Monestino, that has been looking, as she mentioned, just more at just the qualitative, metrics of the youth jobs program. I think we have talked before about just knowing that how important our investment continues to be in youth jobs. So just looking at, knowing that youth jobs increases employability, knowing that, youth jobs, it addresses high unemployment rates among young people, especially those from disadvantaged and low income backgrounds, that the participants are receiving mentorship, life skills training, other supportive services. So we're able to capture, that data and that information as well, promoting positive behavior, from our youth jobs participants also.
Yeah, no, all of those benefits, right? I saw a study that actually showed that if the youth worked at least 15 hours a week, that their grades also went up. There's a sense of discipline and managing their time and work and executive functioning, improving mental health, right? So you are definitely doing God's work, and I appreciate you tremendously. But out of respect for time, I can submit the rest of my questions. There are just way too many to keep you here, and there's no need for that. I think I can just submit them to you and ask that you get back to me with the responses. We are looking to, a lot of the advocacy obviously is around increasing youth jobs, but with this contract, obviously looking at moving funds to contractual, not personnel, and hopefully to support you. But I will definitely extend a courtesy call to you to let you know what folks are thinking in terms of any types of amendments. Commissioner Rivera, I heard you loud and clear that you're also open for that collaborative work in terms of partnering with or connecting you to partner with community organizations that are interested in doing that as well. Really love that you do that mentorship type of connecting youth with, a caring adult or mentoring adult, and would love to learn and hear more about that and how I can be of support or collaboration. For everyone else on the panel, I appreciate you being here. It's just a lot of questions and not enough time, but you could imagine there's a lot of hearings, so I like to just keep it within schedule. And if you have any questions or any suggestions, please contact my office. Thank you to administration and obviously to council admin staff for your support with this hearing. If you have any closing remarks, feel free you have the floor before we adjourn. All right, going once, going twice. I guess it's just farewell and have a good evening.
Thank you. Sorry, I was on mute. So sorry, Councilor Anderson.
Oh, no worries. Thank you, Councilor Mejia, for, again, sticking it through all the way. And Councilor Mejia and I are always here in these hearings to the end. So I appreciate you, partner. Thank you, everyone, and look forward to the continued work. And I appreciate you. I know it's a lot of work. And you couldn't get paid enough for the tremendous weight that you're lifting for the city of Boston. And I understand that, and I appreciate you. Look forward to talking to you. Take care. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Councilor.
Hearing adjourned. Thank you.